Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Sujata. Good evening, Dr. Mitali. So, team, this is the sixth of the update series that we had started in the month of March. So, dentistry is something where we need to do a lot. So, instead of dentistry, let us think of as oral medicine. All the problems of the mouth, including teeth, we have to manage, and how to refer, when to refer, and many times, considering that today's exorbitant cost, patients will come and ask us, "Oh, doctor, should I do this or not?" And you should be ready with the right answer. Then Mitali will tell us that other than trauma to the teeth, when the children need dental care, and even in trauma, when the teeth should be left alone, that they will fall down and their new one will come, or when they should be attended to. All these are things that a family physician has to answer. So, in our true inches academy style, without wasting much time, it is 6:02. Dr. Sujata, please start your talk.
Okay, doc.
I will handle the question answer all in the end.
Okay, fine. Can you hear me, doc?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Be little louder.
Okay, doc. Good evening, everyone. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you to this webinar on new technologies in dentistry. And thank you all for giving your time to be present here. Let me give you a very brief outline of my profile. I did my bachelor's in dentistry in 1984 and master's in 1987 in prosthetic dentistry from the Government Dental College and Hospital, Mumbai. I started my practice immediately after that. Today, Advanced Dental Clinic is a multi-chain, multi-speciality clinic with the latest equipments and treatment modalities available to our patients. We have specialists from different fields like the oral surgery, orthodontics, periodontics, and periodontics who visit our clinic. My associate herself is an endodontist. I did a short stint, not really short, but 6.5 years at Tena Dental College, first as a lecturer and then as an associate professor. I was also a consultant at the Asian Heart Institute for about over 10 years. I'm sure you will all agree that the changes that have happened in our lives in the last 30 to 40 years has been dramatic, to say the least. So dentistry is not far behind. So hence the topic, newer technologies in dentistry. I would earnestly I would have liked it to be an interactive section, but I think Dr. Srani has made it very clear that he wants to take the questions at the end of the session.
You know, otherwise,
yeah,
you will never be able to finish your talk.
Okay, Doc. I get that. I get that. Doctor, are my screen coming clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, as it is said, that 50% of people say that the smile is the first physical trait that is noticed. And like all forms of medicine, all treatments of medicine, I think prevention is what we all must really strive for. That would be an ideal situation. So the oral health basics there are basic 4 tips that we would say. Brush twice, use fluoride toothpaste,
Doc,
use a floss.
Your voice went off in between.
Okay. Now, am I audible?
Yeah, now you're audible.
Okay. I think I'm going a little fast.
No, we couldn't hear you for some time.
Okay. So the basic for prevention, what we're looking at, what are the things that we've got to do to prevent the oral disease, whether it is caries, periodontal disease, or the tissue, any of the surrounding tissues. So brushing twice a day with the fluoride toothpaste, using floss at least once a day, preferably at night, eating healthy food, less sugary food, more fibrous food, and visiting a dentist for a regular checkup. Why a regular checkup? A regular checkup because there are things that can be diagnosed right in the beginning, which can be treated by minimal treatment procedures as well as cost. Whereas as you come in later, what we end up is with loss of teeth or severely damaged teeth. Now, what happens with caries? There may be caries normally starts with a depression being there where food gets stuck, and that's how caries starts. But we can also stop that process of food being retained in a point by doing fillings, which are called Pitt and Fisher sealants. Now, if from there, the cavity, then the formation of a cavity takes place. When a cavity takes place, in the initial stages, they can be filled up with very good resin filling materials, which are very good functionally as well as aesthetically. The next stage is when it goes further deeper. When it goes further deeper is when it goes to the nerve. And that is when the patient complains of pain. So that is the time when he's anyway going to get back to us. So what we need to do is catch him before that, before he gets to that stage. Some patients, even after that, they wait for the tooth to get destroyed. And the time where our family physicians would see them is when they have a huge abscess. So now, very often you would have patients coming to you with an abscess, with a radiating pain, which goes to the back of the ear, the temple, and maybe swollen lymph nodes and fever. So the treatment option is definitely antibiotics and analgesics. But at that time, I would request you doctors to please refer these patients to the dentist, because opening up these teeth and allowing the drainage of the abscess to happen from within the tooth gives better results. The patient is relieved of the pain. The antibiotics works better. So sometimes if you're able to restore the tooth, then we would like to start with the root canal treatment right then. Whereas if we feel that the tooth cannot be restored, during the first course of antibiotics, we would be able to extract that tooth, which otherwise the patient continues to keep taking antibiotics, pain comes down. After 3 months, he comes back again with pain. So this is something that I think, you physicians can definitely help us. The next thing is disease of the gums or the periodontia. Now, unlike the caries, where the patient comes with severe pain within a short period of the process starting, periodontal disease is something where it is a very slow, very dull pain, maybe no pain. So the patient really doesn't come to us. But whenever you see these patients, I'm sure you're able to see that they have a lot of tartar in their mouth, they have foul breath, they have bleeding gums. And if you're able to catch these patients early, because what I've realized is when there is caries, there are a lot of procedures that we can do to restore the teeth. But like the foundation of anything, once the foundation is spoiled, getting back the bone and the gums is very difficult. Now, who are the patients who are at a higher risk of gum disease? Smokers, diabetics, patients with who are consuming a lot of medicines. So any of these could result in gum disease. We also know that pregnancy gingivitis is quite common. So it's advisable to have pregnant women to come in for a checkup, so that whatever the gingivitis, which may be hormonal, but with that, what happens is there's a lot of food that gets stuck, there's tartar formation, so that can be treated, and their gums can be got to good health. Another thing that we often see is oral ulcers. I think you all see that more than us, because very often patients will come to you with oral ulcers. Now, the things that where we can really help is if those ulcers are because of a brush injury or toothbrush injury, or because of a malaligned tooth or a broken tooth, or if a patient is wearing dentures, then whether it's the dentures or the braces that are hurting them, then we would definitely be able to help them. But there are innumerable reasons for ulcers, which I think a lot of them you will have to take care of it systematically maybe. Aphthous ulcers is, again, there's a list of reasons that there are there. So what we are able to do is, of course, one thing is we advise patients to go in for toothpaste, which do not have sodium lauryl sulfate. And so like toothpaste like Sensitivity, which do not have this product, they are found to be better for these cases. And the treatment is very symptomatic treatment that we would also give, which was just an antiseptic mouthwash, cortisone paste, and maybe a local anesthetic gel to give relief to the patient. So now, having said all this, we are trying to prevent this from happening. But suppose you come across patients who already have missing teeth. So I mean, that is something that you will be able to see immediately. There may be patients who come and ask you, now, what do I do? I have missing teeth. Should I really bother about it, or should I just let it be? So in this slide, I've just put up a case of what happens when a tooth is missing. When a tooth is missing, you see, like everything else, the other things try to take its place. As these other teeth are shifting, the front teeth moving backwards, the back tooth moving forwards, the tooth above moving down, over a period of time, you're ending up with spaces around those teeth, ended up with cavities in those areas. So in a period of time, it may be 2 years, 3 years, but you'll end up in having a lot of issues on that side. That is one aspect. The second aspect is a tooth is always, the bone around is present because of the tooth. So the minute the tooth is out, what you lose is the bone surrounding it. And this causes a lot of, facial features. You can see on the right side of the photograph, the facial features, what happens to the facial features. I'll just show you a case where we had done, where this was a patient who came to us, she had no upper teeth, very few lower teeth. We gave her a prosthesis, an interim prosthesis, something in between, which was a removable, partially fixed. And then we went on to give her a full fixed prosthesis. So this is just to tell you that what is possible with missing teeth. It's not that if my teeth are bad and I don't have teeth, I have got to live with it. Not required. Now, I've just put up the slide to say that the field of dentistry is constantly evolving and changing to better suit patient needs. So truly, from the time I left the dental college to what I am doing dentistry today, I mean, it's a sea change that I see. And I think there's still more going forward. So there are 3 topics which I've picked up to tell you about the modern technologies. The first one is the dental implants. What is a dental implant? It's a screw-like, to put it very easily, it's a titanium root that you're putting back into the bone after you've extracted a tooth. Now, what all can I restore with implants? You can restore a single tooth. You can restore multiple teeth by putting a fewer implants. Like you could put 2 implants and restore 3 teeth, or you could put 6 implants and restore 12 teeth. Like a patient may not have his upper teeth or lower teeth at all, but we could give him 6 or 8 implants and give him a fixed prosthesis, which is not even a denture. It's a fixed prosthesis. The patient just feels like he's got his natural teeth. Also, you may have many old patients who are wearing dentures. As the number of years wearing dentures goes by, what we see is that the bone support keeps reducing. And slowly, they find that their dentures, which initially were fitting well, are not fitting well. With implants, we can put in implants and you can use dentures, which are supported well. So they do not move and function. Patient is able to bite, patient is able to talk. Patient is much more comfortable when we give these implant prostheses. Just to show a few cases, like this case, we had a tooth that was missing, all other teeth are present. We just put in an implant in that tooth and we restored it. And it was back like his normal tooth, where he didn't have to take it out or anything. It's just fixed there. This was another case. Of course, the OPG X-ray will show you that he's got a lot of problems on all his teeth. Now, on the left side, he had teeth missing. The only way to restore this tooth, these teeth, were by giving him a denture, which he was definitely not willing to accept. So what we did was we put in 2 implants there and we restored that. And if you see on the right-hand side, the last picture on the left, you'll see that 2 teeth are replaced, very tooth-like, aesthetically pleasing, functionally they were very good. And the patient is much more comfortable because it feels a part of him. So he doesn't have to take it out, So he was very comfortable. This is the same case which I showed you first. So this is how the patient came to us with an upper denture, with a small partial denture and all. You can see a lot of crowns in her mouth, which were very bad. So we had to take them out, the lowers, take out whatever remaining teeth were there. And the OPG X-ray shows you six implants that we had placed. I placed the 6 implants and I had given her an immediate lower denture on the day of the surgery. The surgery was done, 6 implants were put in. We had already prefabricated the denture for her and we could screw it in place. The uppers, we had a problem because she didn't have enough bone. So we had to place the implants, wait for 3 months, and then go ahead with the prosthesis. The last photographs shows you after she had upper and lower implant fixed prosthesis in her mouth. Another topic that I want to talk to you about is something called crowns and laminates. The crowns are structures that are used after the tooth, any of the tooth, after a root canal or a fracture or anything. Once the tooth is destroyed, then what you need is to put in crowns. That is to restore the size, shape of that particular tooth. And another one is laminates. Now, what are laminates? These are small, they're actually like shells which go on the surfaces of your teeth. Now, why would you need it? You would need it when your teeth are discolored, when your teeth are fractured, there is gaps between the teeth, there's asymmetry between your teeth. You want something that aesthetically is very pleasing. More often than not, this is done for aesthetics. To show you a few cases. Right now here, there is a case where the patient had diastema, he had some fractures, some fillings. So we got all the front 6 teeth were treated with laminates. This is another one where all the teeth, upper and lower, almost 8 of the uppers, 8 of the lower teeth, we put in laminates, and we could take him from where those yellow, teeth to better looking, aesthetically pleasing teeth. What are crowns? Crowns are caps which are put on, as I already told you, on restored teeth. You would have, in maybe 30 years back, what was very common were gold caps and white metal caps. Today, we've moved away from there. We're looking at more aesthetic caps, caps which are milled. So they are fabricated better, the fit is better. So this is a latest trend, is getting all ceramics or zirconia crowns. Now, these are a few cases that I thought maybe putting up cases would make more sense than me talking. So one of the cases here was a patient came to me with a crown which was put in many, many years back. And it had, there was a gap and she was very unhappy with that. So then we just changed that. We changed that and replaced it with another cap, which looked aesthetically very good. You can hardly say that there is a crown in that tooth. Same thing with another tooth. Another patient. Now this patient, I had made this crown for her way back in 93. And as you see, from 93 to about 2 years back, all her other teeth had changed, become more yellower with age, but this tooth just continued to look white. So we had to change it. I think you're not able to see the last picture. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, doctor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I think the last picture is not visible. The post-op. Yeah,
No,
okay, I'm sorry, but I don't know. It's just not there. Okay, but this was another case where we put in a crown and it looked just as natural. Okay, now those are crowns. There's another one that I would like to show you is, now in this case, the one of the tooth was very bad, periodontally very bad. It had come down, it was loose. We took it out and ideally would have been an implant. We could have just put in one implant and not touched the 2 adjacent teeth. The patient was not ready for an implant. So what we did was we modified the 2 side teeth and we gave him what is called a bridge. And that is the picture below shows you how it looks. Now to come to the third part of the newer technologies is orthodontics. Now, what is orthodontics? It's basically moving around teeth, straightening them, getting them in the right position. This is for us, why would you need orthodontics? It's not only for aesthetics. There are times when you want to get teeth into the right position, because if they're not in the right position, then you have food getting stuck, the gums getting bad, you have more cavities, you have gum issues. The patient is not able to bite their food properly, which slowly leads to temporomandibular joint problems. So orthodontic treatment, many of you may think that mostly parents come say, my kid's teeth are crooked. So is it only that? Dr. Mitali, in the latter half, will speak to you about orthodontics in children. So now what I wanted to tell you is, okay, is orthodontics only for kids? So is orthodontic treatment in old age a big deal? You'll be surprised to know that 1 in 4 patients who comes for orthodontic consultation or treatment to our clinic is an adult. Now, the point is, leaving these teeth in that position would only lead to tooth decay, gum disease, difficulty in chewing for these patients. So today, adults are more willing to go in for these treatments. Also because of the fact that today, we're able to give them more comfortable, less noticeable braces, because that was a concern which always patients had. I cannot wear these metal braces. I cannot have braces at this age. So now we are able to give them prostheses which are transparent, like the one that you see on the left. The patient wears it, it's hardly visible. Invisalign is a company from the US, which is a pioneer in this. But now we do have a lot of companies which also in India, which are manufacturing these plates. They're very comfortable aesthetically. They're hardly visible. So patients are more willing to take this treatment option. Your teeth can and should last a lifetime. With our combined efforts, we should see this unfold. There's always a reason to smile. Find it. Thank you very much. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Inches Academy and Dr. Asrani for inviting me to be here for this webinar. Thank you.
Dr. Sujata, thank you very much for a very lucid presentation.
Thank you, Doctor.
And I'll come back with the questions later.
Okay.
After Mitali's talk.
Yes, Doctor.
Dr. Mitali.
Yeah, am I audible?
Hi, Mitali, how are you?
Hi, good evening. Hello.
So our team here is like our family.
Okay.
My team, I don't mind telling you, Mitali is like my daughter-in-law.
Yes.
Her husband is like my son.
Yes.
So
right.
When I wanted a pediatric dentist, I didn't have to think. I didn't even ask her. I told her you have to do this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime.
And she is actually, her smile tells you that what a dentist, why you need a dentist. You should have a very good smile. Mitali, your floor. You can share the screen.
Okay. So I press share the screen now. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. First of all, very good evening to all of you. It's a pleasure to be on this platform. And thank you so much, Dr. Asrani, to give me this opportunity to talk about my world of pediatric dentistry to all of you. So basically, I work with a very wonderful team pioneered by Dr. Meenakshi Kher. And this practice has been there for almost 25 years now, the first ever pediatric practice in the city of Mumbai. And that time, very few of them knew what are pediatric dentists. And unfortunately, after so many years, things have not changed. But I hope for the best. And also in our practice, we see children right from 0 years to about 18 years. That also includes children and adults with special healthcare needs. Now, a little about myself. I completed my master's in pediatric dentistry from Pune in the year 2011 and have been working at the same place ever since. And it's been 10 years now, but still the parents who come, they are zapped and they are astonished and they tell us that, doc, we never knew that there is someone called as pediatric dentist. and a specialist for the children's dental needs. So I'm like, yes, that's true. But hopefully things are changing, and people now are coming, they know more about us than ever before. So basically, every child has a fundamental right to his or her total oral health. We as a general population are extremely ignorant about the child's dental care, and though we see a boost in the improvement of the care and of the concern for the children's dental care needs, but as I said before, we still have a long time to go. Now the thing is, we all agree to this, don't we, that there are so many myths around kids' oral health. The first and the most common myth, or the most what people talk about, is baby teeth do not need care, they will fall anyway. That's true, they will fall off, but every tooth has its own time to go. The first tooth anyways, they all fall between 6 and 7 years of age, where I'm pointing, which is the bottom central incisor, and the successors takes its place. And the last tooth to fall are the baby molars, which falls around 12 and 13 years of age. Until then, they are your child's chewing teeth. And also the baby teeth, they help to maintain the arch length. They are basically as a guiding eruptive pathway for the permanent dentition. So definitely they need care whenever they are required to. Of course, there are a lot of other myths which everyone talks about, that, oh, they are just baby teeth, you don't need to care, you don't need to brush, and the cavities in the milk teeth are so common, it's fine, it's just not so bad. And there are so many parents who come to us and they say, oh, my child doesn't eat chocolates. But then we dig and dig and dig in the diet consultation that we do as a rule to prevent for the future cavities. Then we get to know what all kind of diet that the child is having. It's just not about chocolates, but there are so many hidden sugars, which I'm going to come in the next few slides of mine. There are so many times that if a parent or a caregiver has had a very bad or a painful past dental experience, that automatically translates that fear to the child, and we kind of postpone it. Okay, the child is not in any pain. Okay, let's forget about it. We'll see when the child is in any pain. But ultimately, who is at loss? The child. Of course, there are so many other common questions as parents come up to us, and these are very, very basic and acceptable questions to us, which we are more than willing to answer them, because if we counsel the parents today, they are going to help their friends and their relatives. And you all know that, unfortunately, I don't know if it's fortunate or if it's unfortunate, it's just not about parents taking the decision for the children. We stay in a society where there are other people who give us a little bit of an information from here and there. They say, okay, why do you need to do that? Why do you need to do that? My child is not getting it done. So basically, in short, there are a lot of influential factors which determines whether you should go for the treatment or not. And that's so unfortunate. So yeah, so basically there are a lot of common questions that doc, can't we just postpone the treatment? The child is very small. And why did he have a cavity in the first place? So, and what was the reason for my child to get so many cavities? So you will be very surprised to know there are just two factors because of which cavities happen. One is incorrect and inappropriate brushing. And the second thing is there are lots and lots of sugar food that we consume. We probably never had that issue, or we probably never had that problem of visiting a dentist when we were children, or probably that's the reason we never knew about a pediatric dentist even existing. But now with the certain civilization that is changing, we are more modernizing in our own in our lifestyle. There is so many food that is available which has so many hidden sugars. It's like off the shelf, and the things are completely changing. We are absolutely copying the West, but we are not at all copying the way we should be taking care of our health. I'm just going to quickly tell you about this randomized study, which was done in Mumbai itself in Naya Dental College a few years back. So basically, this study was done for about 300 sample teenagers, and the results are shocking. The system which was used was to understand what do the teenagers understand about their oral hygiene habits and the dietary habits. So the percentage is very shocking. So only about 16% of the teenagers actually knew about the brushing techniques. And brushing techniques, by that I mean, do they use a fluoridated toothpaste? What kind of toothbrush do they use? What kind of method do they use? So there were hardly any percentage of the teenagers who actually knew how to do that. And roughly about 89% of them consumed sweets irrespective of the meal time. Now our job, our commitment, and our motto is just not about treating the child. It's just not about drill, fill, and forget about it, because the cavities will keep on happening. And now the definition, the concept of dental caries is completely changed as to what I did when I was doing my graduation in the year 2002. So now the dental caries is actually looked at a disease. It's a biological disease, and until and unless we treat the disease from the root cause, the cavities will keep on happening, the disease will keep on continuing. And unfortunately, if we do not change the habits today, the child is going to be a dental patient for the rest of their life, which we do not want. So by that, we not only remove the infection, we not only relieve the child of the pain, or do a filling, or do multiple caps, doing root canals. But other than that, after the treatment is done, we need to know what has caused the cavity, why this has happened. We need to motivate the parent. And by 6 monthly regular dental follow-ups, which we really insist to the parent to keep on coming for the regular dental follow-ups, is that also changes the child's behavior. So when we see a child who's like so cranky, and obviously they're children, right? They ought to be cranky, is that right? So they are cranky and they're uncomfortable. And by 6 monthly regular dental follow-ups, they know, okay, this is a fantastic environment. I go, I see my doctor checks my teeth, and I get stars, and I get something, and then I'm back home. So that really motivates the child to come and see us. And by that, every 6 months, we keep on telling them what is the diet and what is the brushing, so that they can maintain a great oral hygiene habit when they are back home. And of course, by doing a regular counseling of the parent, by educating them, we are only providing a good dental home for the parent and for the child. Okay, so just a small thing. This is my child at about 6 months of age, and this is when she was about 2.5 years of age. She used to love coming to my practice, and she would love sitting on the dental chair. The chair goes up and down. It was like a magical ride for her. And of course, she's now 7.5. She understands the mechanics of the dental chair, but she still looks forward for her tooth fairies. Okay, so now this on the slide, what you see is completely devastating for us, and I'm sure for you too. The problem is, it's just not that the parents are oblivious to what they are seeing in the child's mouth, but it's also about they don't know what to do. Even if they know, okay, I think this is not right. I think there is something wrong in my child's teeth. But what happens when the parent don't get a proper channel, when they don't get a proper, a proper advice by the general practitioners, or probably their family physicians, dentists for that matter. Okay, so they don't get a proper channel. What are they supposed to do? Because ultimately it all comes to the myth that these are the baby teeth, they are going to fall off very soon, and then the child is suffering with so many dental cavities. The main reason for, even an infant who's about, say, 1.5, 2-year-old children who come to our practice, and they have a lot of cavities, and they have pus-filled boils, and the child has not slept in the night. It's like it's paining all the time. The child has been put on the antibiotics and the painkiller, but the treatment is not being rendered for whatever reason. Now the thing, so what do we do? Treatment is another option, but we need to know that why the cavities happen in such a small child. Obviously, the child is not like running around with eating chocolates and eating sugary food, but there has to be a main reason, which happens in the infants and the toddlers. It's also mainly because there are two things which go hand in hand over here. Now, what happens is when the child sleeps with the milk in the mouth, be it breastfeeding, be it bottle feeding, be it supper feeding, the mother is exhausted. She's sleeping. The child is sleeping next to her. and the child is being fed all night, right? So what happens is the last mouthful of milk remains in the mouth. The child is not swallowing the last mouthful of milk. It is more of a lullaby for which the child is put to the breast or the bottle, and it just does not get swallowed. And hence the teeth are soaked in the milk throughout the time that the child is sleeping, which again is followed by inappropriate brushing, because often the parents come and say that, doctor, we don't know how to brush. Doctor, do we really need to use a toothbrush or a toothpaste? Oh, I've been just using a finger brush all the time. Oh, I didn't know that you need to start brushing till they're about 2.5. So that is the reason when the combination of such things happen, that is where you see rampant decay in very small children. And of course, then you need to treat them. And how do we need to treat them? It just depends on what is the age of the child, what do you see in the mouth, and the cooperation level, etc. Over here, I would really like you all to look at this image, because when you meet the parent, because you are the first ever person that the parent will come with the child, because by the time we see children, ultimately the damage is already done. So when you see them, I would really like you to give them an anticipatory guidance, give them a motivation to look out for certain things. These patches that you see over here, okay, they are quite different than the structure of the tooth over here. Now, why there is a difference on the same tooth near the gum margin and over here is simply because the tongue keeps on washing off the plaque from the tooth. And this is the most accessible surface for the plaque to be stagnant. So when the brushing doesn't happen well, the brushing could typically happen over here, but the brush is not reaching over here. So the plaque keeps on stagnating, and these patches or the lines that you see on the tooth is called as the white spot lesion. The good news is that these are the first sign of tooth decay. They look roughly like a chalky white surface. And of course, it's because of the inadequate brushing and more of the plaque which goes and settles over there. And how do we prevent it? It's absolutely preventable. Dental caries is a disease which is absolutely preventable. So one, you teach them adequate brushing. Secondly, when the child is roughly about 4.5, we also do something called as a fluoride varnish application. It's a 6-monthly fluoride varnish cream that we apply on all the surfaces of the teeth as a routine preventive work in the dental clinic. And of course, we also advise the patients to start using a fluoridated toothpastes, and of course, which follows by the oral hygiene instructions. And so, certain small things that ideally we all should be telling the new mothers is simply because a new mother has anyways a lot of things on her hand, and toothbrushing or gum pad cleaning probably would be not in the priority list until and unless we are extremely motivated. Okay, so ideally the gum pads should be cleaned roughly with every feed with a moist cotton cloth. We really want them to visit the dentist at least when the first tooth erupts, or at least by the first birthday. That is when we can actually guide them for the future teeth which comes out, and with your regular brushing and that, etc. And of course, morning and night brushing. The images that you see over here is how to exactly hold a child. Now, in olden days, or not really olden days, but few years probably back, we would tell the parent that until and unless the child is swiftly able to tie their own shoelaces is actually the time when the fine motor skill or the dexterity has developed, and that happens roughly by about 6 to 7 years of age. So until then, we advise the caregiver to brush the children's teeth, simply because even if the child, we want them to be independent, don't we? So when they take the brush, they are moving it around, but actually the brushing is not happening, and you would still see plaque over there. So ideally, the caregiver should be brushing their teeth. And so over here, what I have written is, simple thing is just to stand behind the child against you, flip the lip up, flip the cheek up as seen on the images, and brush in 6 segments. That would be center, top right, top left, and bottom right left. Diet plays a very, very important role in the cavities because it is a combination of an inadequate brushing and diet. Until and unless the diet does not have refined carbs or sugar, your plain roti sabzi, your plain dal chawal will not cause decay. It is impossible. Of course, it doesn't look nice. It's unhealthy. It causes a bad odor. But unless the food has refined carbs or the free sugar rather, then only the cavities happen. Now, what do I mean by free sugar? Now, the diet, when it has a free sugar or it has a natural or the intrinsic sugar, the natural or the intrinsic sugar will not cause cavities, and only a fruit or vegetable would have an intrinsic sugar. Rest, everything that is added on by the manufacturer is a free sugar. So right from your biscuits to chips to cookies to hard-boiled candies, the jam, the ketchup, the spread, the Nutellas, even your sugar, even your jaggery and your honey. So as we know, as Indians, we have a lot of families who follow certain kind of a rule or certain kind of a belief, or they have their own system in their household to have jaggery or to have honey or to have mishri with every kind of, either you do a prasad or you give, if the child is not eating well, what do? You just put jaggery with roti, or put butter, or sorry, not butter, but if you put sugar with roti, or you put jam with roti. So a lot of things parents don't even realize how much the sugar is going on throughout the day of the child. So when after the treatment or during in between the dental appointments, we, as a prevention, we always sit and discuss the diet bit. That's a separate counseling session altogether, because unless and until we know what is the cause of cavities, the cavities will keep on happening. So ideally we counsel them not to include a lot of sugary stuff in the day. Rather, we tell them, and it also depends on how sticky they are. So your candies, your lollipops, your sticky sweets is absolutely disastrous. Your biscuits, even if it is a salty biscuit, if it's a cream biscuit, or it is coated with sugar, or if it has a lot of chocolate chips. So any form of a biscuit is extremely sticky because they are only made of maida and sugar. So that is bound to cause cavity. So what we tell the parent is, your one packet of biscuit is equivalent to your one packet of chocolate. Already your child is not having chocolate, but what about roti with jam? What about your cookies? And what about your sticky foods? So just limit that. We're not saying don't have it, because after all, we are dealing with children. We cannot deny them. But then we ask them to make smart choices in sweets. Like a bowl of ice cream is much better than consuming a lollipop or a candy. All right. Now, I would introduce you what are the new things that is happening in pediatric dentistry, because ultimately it comes up to how fearful we are or how painful it will be for our children. We do not want them to cry. We do not want them to torture in the practice. So what do we do and how do we do about it? Now, there are a lot of things that have come up in pedo, which is for a good thing. Right now, we are concentrating on very, very small children who comes to us. If they have a single cavity or if they have multiple cavities, we do not want to rush into general anesthesia, unlike what we used to do earlier. If the child does not have any infected tooth, if they do not have any pain or any such symptom, we want to avoid general anesthesia as much as possible as our last resort. That typically we keep it for very, very uncooperative children, probably, who will need a lot of root canals, and it is impossible for them to sit on the dental chair and get so many. Each time you come, each time you inject, each time you do a treatment for them, it is so difficult for the child, and it is so demanding for the child, because dentistry is completely voluntary. It's not like, it's not like holding them, giving them a jab and the job is done. No, they have to sit on the chair. They have to accept the treatment, what we do, in a friendly way. So ultimately we will make everything friendly for them. We have a TV up on the ceiling. We have a friendly staff, and we talk to them nicely. We make them as comfortable as possible, but ultimately they are supposed to sit on the chair. They are supposed to take all the stimulus that happens in and around the oral structure. So we want to make it as simple as possible. So now, so as I told you, it's completely changing. There's so many things which has been absolutely obsolete, right from your using of your hand drills, which makes so much noise, which gives out so much water. So things are getting obsolete. And earlier, we used to remove everything, whatever black and brown we used to see in the teeth, we used to remove everything. But now we don't. We just remove the active cavity and we fill it up with a restorative material, which releases a lot of calcium phosphate fluoride. So in fact, it is so biological now. It is not anymore mechanical. So it is completely changing. And of course, it also benefits very little children who sit on the parents' chair, who get their treatment done in one sitting, and they're going back home happily because they did not feel a thing. There was no drill, there was no suction, there was nothing that bothers them. And of course, also with a lot of special needs that we see in our practice, right from your autism spectrum disorder to different type of disabilities. It could be a physical disability, it could be a mental disability. So things like this really help them a lot to sit by themselves and get the treatment done and not let it increase further. Now, there are a few cases that I can show you of how things are before treatment and after treatment. So for very little children, when you know that the fillings are not going to stay there, so each tooth has a multiple surface. Now, whatever we do is all a repair job. The teeth will never grow back. Whatever the tooth structure has been lost forever. So you need to replace it. And by what we replace it with a material. And the material, of course, has its own life. It cannot stay forever. So you need to think what you need to do till the teeth are ready to shake and fall and exfoliate. And luckily with children, we do have an option, like we do have a second chance. If the baby teeth do have cavities, we calm the mother, because the mother guilt is terrible. Like, you know, they just get so emotional. They feel that, okay, they have done something wrong, and it's not their fault, because they never knew. Nobody told them, nobody taught them. It's not something that when you give birth to a child, these things are not taught, unfortunately. So I just really hope that all these anticipatory guidance is given to a new mother, so that from the beginning they can start taking care of their little babies and the oral health as well. Okay, so there are a lot of crowns that we do. There are a lot of treatment that we do. Of course, you will be wondering, what is this black thing in spite of doing a filling? So this is a solution. This is called as an SDF. I will not go into details about it. These are the silver diamond fluoride, because when there is a deep cavity over here, it's like a 50-50 chance. The child has never complained of pain, but again, you're sure that maybe a filling won't suffice, or it could be an infected tooth, or it could become an infected tooth which has not yet acted up. You don't want to rush into OT. You don't want to take the child under general anesthesia. So what do you want to do? You want to do something, at least you know that you're going to buy time. Okay, so this is something called as an SDF. It's a solution. It's a drug that we apply on this deep cavities wherever we see. We apply them and we keep them under observation, and at least 6 months, 1.5 years, we buy time. And by the time the child is quite older enough to sit and get the other form of a treatment done. That's another case. So when you see something like this, it's like absolutely devastating, because the child has had abscesses. There is hardly any tooth structure that you can see, and when the child grows a little more older, they are also conscious of the fact that they don't have good teeth. So you need to give them good teeth. And it's not only about aesthetics, it's also about the function. You want to relieve them of pain. So what do? Because this is so rampant and the treatment is so extensive, the treatment is so demanding, that the child will not be able to sit by themselves and get the treatment done. So then the ultimate resort is to do it under general anesthesia and do the required treatment. That would be multiple root canals and crowns and restorations and a lot of other stuff. Of course, now, as I told you, times have changed, things have changed. Earlier, we used to do a lot of stainless steel crowns, which you saw in my previous slide. And now we have a lot of zirconia crowns available. So the kids also deserve a good smile as adults. So we do a lot of zirconia crowns as well. And of course, this was a very small child, I think about 3 years and few months. So we had to take the child under operation theater, in operation theater under general anesthesia, because there were a lot of multiple infected tooth, and in no circumstance the child would have sat all by themselves and got the treatment done. And yeah, this is another case of zirconia crowns. And of course, they feel very happy after that. All right, I am very excited to talk to you about nitrous oxide oxygen inhalation sedation. This is also called as anxiolysis. We've been doing this in our practice since almost 2012, 12, 13. This is done for children who are a little older, say about 4.5 plus, who need a lot of dental treatment in the child, who will not be able to sit by themselves because there is so much stimulus. For a simple filling, it is impossible for a child to sit by themselves and get it done. So we do it under inhalation sedation. It has a rapid onset of action. It is very quick. It has a calming effect on the child. This under sedation, the treatment is done routinely in our practice, and abroad it's been used almost for about, I guess, 70 to 80 years. And now since some time we've been doing this in our practice as well. And they just sail through the treatment. You do a root canal, you do multiple difficult procedures on the child. It's very safe. It's very easy to use. Pre-COVID times, we would say that the child would get the treatment done, and from there the child would go back to school. It's absolutely safe and absolutely easy and so good for the child. But of course, it has its limitation. You can't do it for children who have chronic cold, chronic cough, absolutely blocked nose, or for children who are younger than 4.5, who are into the pre-cooperative stage, and also for some children who have mild to moderate disability, for them to sit because they have to accept the mask on. So that is this nitrous oxide oxygen inhalation sedation is only done for children who are a little older and who need help to cooperate for massive extensive dental treatment. These, when we have a phone call, okay, doc, my child had a fall, we are like praying, oh my God, I hope this is not a permanent tooth. Okay, I hope this is not a tooth which has broken into half and the nerve is exposed, because we are after all dealing with young permanent teeth. And when a young permanent teeth is involved, it is so crucial for us to save that permanent tooth, because say a child at about 7 years gets his upper front permanent tooth. The root of the tooth is not yet developed because it develops almost after 2 to 3 years it has come into the mouth. And the nerve, which is in the center of the tooth, is mainly responsible for the root growth and root development. You cannot do a root canal treatment in such a young permanent tooth the way we do it for adults. So we just hope, okay, it's not that. Yes, there are some times, but then we'll see what treatment we need to do for that. So yeah. So when there is an enamel, so when there is a fracture which involves the topmost layer of the tooth, which is the enamel, and the centermost layer of the tooth, which is the dentine, it is very, very crucial for them to come immediately to a dental clinic, because the nerve endings is already exposed. The child will have sensitivity. There could be a time wherein later on the tooth may absolutely become non-vital, meaning the nerve is completely dead, and later on the child may need a root canal treatment. But before that, we would like to do something to save the tooth, like put a band-aid, and then later on we'll see how to build that tooth up. It just depends when the child had a fall, where they had a fall, and what all we see in the x-rays. All right, so now when a child comes to you, probably because as I told you, you might see them first after a fall. Under no circumstance anyone will think that the tooth has broken. Okay, I need to find that chipped tooth because the child is bleeding, there is a soft tissue laceration. Our first aim will be to know where the child has had a fall. Did the child have any head injury? Is the child all right? Did the child vomit, etc.? So whatever we look at, the first aid thing, we see that. But what about that precious little tooth which has broken, which has fallen? So at times when children come to us, the first question we ask them at this point of time, what you see over here on the screen is, did you find the tooth? Did you find that fragment? Because it is so crucial. Nothing is better than putting the natural tooth back. So we have had parents who have kept the child over, and of course that is when they stay close by, like in the same building or in the same vicinity. They go back, they call up home, okay, the child had a fall. Do you think you will be able to find the tooth fragment over there? So there are so many times they get the tooth fragment back to us. Even in the school, if the child had a fall, they go back, they inform the school, and you won't believe, sometimes they found the tooth fragment in the dustbin and they've gotten back to us. Of course, that's like the rarest of the rare times. But yeah, if you find the tooth fragment, nothing like it. So whenever you see any child who's had a fall, the parent is rushing to you. The parent is calling you, doctor, my child had a fall, please do something. The lip is bleeding, the tooth is bleeding, just do something about it. Of course, just look at the child and also ask this question, that if the tooth has broken, please ask them, did you find the tooth fragment? Because in case if they do, please tell them to go and see the dentist, because it is always better to put that tooth fragment back. And there are times, yes, you cannot find the tooth, or even if you find the fragment, it is so broken into pieces, like a multiple pieces, it is impossible to fix that back up. So yes, we can do a build up. It's a restorative material that we use, and we can again make it nice and the way it was. There are times wherein we see a lot of injuries wherein the tooth has just about shifted from its original position. That's again an emergency, because you want to put that back before the healing process starts, and then it is very difficult to get that tooth back in its place. So you want to push that tooth back inside, then we want to splint it up. And of course, this is after about 4 to 6 months of the injury, and touch wood, the tooth is still doing very, very well. Avulsion is when the tooth is completely out of the socket, and that typically happens when the child is in the playground, or when the child is running near the pool, the child has had a fall from the slide, or the child slipped. So that is the time wherein typically you will see the whole tooth is out of the mouth, and the time is very, very crucial, because this is not something that you want to delay the treatment, because the periodontal ligament fibers by which the tooth is attached in the socket is completely degenerated, it's broken, it's shredded. So when the tooth is out into the is out after the mouth, there are 2 or 3 steps, doctors, which I think you should tell all your patients to follow. Is one, the most essential thing is just to put the tooth back in the socket as soon as possible. Studies have shown that to put it at least as soon as, immediately, to a maximum of 30 to 40 minutes, because that's the most crucial time. We don't want to get the tooth non-vital. Non-vital means it's completely dead, and then you need to do a root canal. So if it's a young permanent tooth, we want the tooth back in its position. And if the parents are not able to do it, please do it for them. Just push the tooth back in its socket and ask them to bite on a handkerchief and rush them to a dentist as soon as possible. But of course, before that, there are 2-3 things that you have to do. Is one is just hold the tooth by this crown surface, hold it, and just run it in the tap water, or the best is saline. You'll all have saline in your dental, in your clinics. So just run it in the saline water and push it back. And then later on, they can come and then we can do the splinting, and then we can see what we have to do. Yes, avulsions are the avulsed baby tooth, which is the primary tooth, is never reimplanted, because we do not want the permanent tooth to get injured. So there are times wherein we don't do any treatment, especially in the milk set teeth. If there is a fracture, or if there is a displacement which is shifting from its original position, or if the tooth has completely blown out of the socket in the baby teeth, we never ever like to do any treatment on that. It's the main concern is to protect the permanent tooth as much as possible. So we just leave it like that. There are 2 years old, there are 3 years old who've had a fall and the tooth is completely out, it's avulsed. But then when they come back to us, poor thing, they get the tooth, they get the whole tooth to us. Doctor, we have got the tooth, can you please fix it back? And we are like, sorry, it's a baby tooth. The recommendations are not to put it back. It's simply because you want to save the permanent tooth over there. You do not want to really injure that tiny little tooth bud which is still developing. So we just leave it like that. And of course, there are a lot of other things which we do in dentistry, apart from dealing with the cavities, apart from dealing with the trauma, is also about a lot of children who are in a growing stage. There are a lot of children who come with a thumb sucking habit, or rather different kind of habits they come up with. So because of the habits, there is unnatural forces that happens on the maxilla portion especially, and then it just goes haywire. So there is a lot of counseling that we do for the patients, because we do not want them to continue with the thumb sucking. First of all, it's not socially acceptable. Second of all, it's, beyond 4 years, it's just not acceptable. And of course, it causes a lot of dental abnormalities. So we counsel the parents a lot. And after, if the counseling fails and if the child is still continuing with the thumb sucking or any form of a habit, then we go and put an appliance. There is one example that I have given you is a certain minor correction that we would like to do till the orthodontics takes over, because we generally don't put braces for the permanent dentition. So our orthodontist takes care of that, and we have a fantastic orthodontics in our practice. So if a permanent tooth comes out something like this, as you can see, there is a discrepancy between the right and the left. The right is behind the bottom tooth. So this is typically called as a crossbite, and there is a traumatic, it just keeps on whacking against the bottom tooth. So you cannot let this tooth grow the same way. So when you see patients, when we see patients every six months as a regular dental follow-up, we see there's a lot of dynamic changes in the mouth. There are a lot of baby teeth falling. There are a lot of permanent teeth coming. So you want to be sure if the permanent teeth are coming out well, and how do you do about that? So then when we see something like this, we put a crossbite correction plate. And of course, after about 4 to 6 weeks, a simple thing we have done, we've just put a plate, tightened it every week, and the crossbite is corrected. So the child is good to go. And then if there is any other issues like a minor discrepancy, or the tooth are crooked, or the teeth are crooked, or they're overlapping, or there are a lot of gaps, you can always deal it with the orthodontics later. And the last thing that I want to tell you about is, I'm sure you all know about that, is the sleep breathing disorder is a relatively new thing that we are doing in our practice. We are figuring out patients who have obstructive sleep apnea, because what we have seen is it just causes a lot of damage to the growing and the developing jaws, and they have a lot of symptoms of OSA. So we want them to see their pediatricians or see the ENT, wherever it is appropriate for them to go. And then once the treatment is started, we see massive changes of how beautifully the jaws are developing. So for us, it is very, very important to be a part of the patient's growing age, right from infancy to at least they have reached the adulthood, because during that time, whenever we see every six months when they come for a checkup, we see a lot of dynamic changes, and then it just improves the oral condition. And so many times they come up with such cute stuff for us, and then it's so overwhelming. This is how we are in the COVID time, wherein we really cannot hug our patients. All we can do is just smile, stand next to them and smile and take some pictures. It's a beautiful time to spend with children. Thank you so much for your precious time, and I really hope it made a lot of difference to you after listening to this. Thank you so much.
Yes, it indeed made a lot of difference, because adult dentistry, we at least knew something. Pediatric, so we were all at sea. So you both have been wonderful.
Thank you.
Please unshare your screen, so I will start asking questions.
Sure.
So first I'll start with Dr. Shetty. Dr. Shetty, teeth that turn yellow with age, is there any treatment?
Yeah. So, doctor, most of the time what happens with age is that the enamel is wearing out because of brushing, because of use. So what happens is the dentine becomes more visible, which by nature is more yellow in structure. So there's really nothing that you can do to whiten there. Now, there are techniques of using bleach, but if the yellowness is because of the thinning of the enamel, you cannot whiten it even with bleaching. Then laminates is an option.
Can we put implants in patients with osteoporosis?
If patients with osteoporosis are being treated with bisphosphonates, a definite no.
No. Okay. Are the implants permanent? No need for replacement?
I will not say that they're permanent. There are cases with time, or even if there is some issue, that could be implantitis, where then the implant fails. But well done implants with good bone support do last for a long time.
Okay. Do implants get loose at times, or is there a chance of infection once they are implanted?
Yes. There's always a chance, doctor. Just like the teeth, how we have to take care of our teeth, we have to take care of implants. If you don't take care of them by keeping the surrounding areas clean and, take care of them, you could just have the bone and the tissues, getting infected again.
Is there any difference between crown and cap?
No, it is one and the same thing.
The same. What are the preventive measures for enamel loss?
Can you just repeat that question, Doc?
Preventive measures for loss of enamel.
Loss of enamel, one is aggressive brushing. You have a lot of patients who, especially you see that in smokers, because they don't want to have the stains showing, so they tend to use hard brush. So using a hard brush or using excessive force while brushing, these are, the common reasons. But then sometimes if the bite of the patient is not the right, you also see fractures that happen to the enamel because of that.
Okay. What is, how do we select the implant? What is the difference between Korean and Israel implants?
That's a little difficult, Doc.
Somebody is
Yeah.
Wanting to put implants, so wants to know the thing.
Yeah, actually, Doc, the implants, there are different system of implants. There are different, I think we really need to, difficult to just say Korean because there are so many companies in Korea which make it, as well as Israeli implants. But having said that, I think it'll be difficult for me to say which implant is good.
Okay, I think let it be the dentist decide.
Yes, the dentist and the patient, because there are so many factors that go into it really.
Management of sensitive teeth in older adults.
Yeah, so sensitivity in teeth, first of all, we will have to find out what the sensitivity is because of. If the sensitivity is because of a cavity or a filling that has to be done, then it has to be done. Just by using a desensitizing paste, it's not going to be a solution. So first, I think whatever basic treatment, like a proper gum treatment, cleaning, scaling, all that has to be done. In spite of that, if there is sensitivity because of recession of the gums, then a desensitizing paste should help.
Okay. If dentures don't fit as gums are very small and there is osteoporosis, is there any solution?
It's first of all, I think you should get well-made dentures, because many times I've seen patients who come because dentures are not well-made, they may not be fitting well. But having said that, the only option that these patients could have is putting a lining on the inner surface of a denture with a softer material, which could increase the fit a wee bit. And yeah.
When tooth splits vertically after a fall in an adult, can it be saved?
No, a vertically split tooth you will have to extract that out.
Any age limit for implants?
Not really, Doc, because I have placed an implant in a patient who was as old as 82 years old. So, and it lasted her for at least about 6 to 7 years. So really, there is, if there is bone and if you're able to put an implant, and of course, considering all the parameters like the calcium levels, the phosphate levels, if all those are within the limits, they work well.
Mithali, in children, if there is a vertical split, can you save it? Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself.
For the primary dentition?
Yeah.
No, then we would rather extract it than doing something else, because we do not really want to injure. The main purpose is to save the permanent tooth as much as possible. So in case there is any fracture vertically or anything, rather than doing an endodontic treatment, which will ultimately irritate the permanent tooth bar, in certain situations, it's rather to extract the primary teeth than trying to save it.
Dr. Shetty, does gargling after meals help?
Absolutely, Doc. Because it's not possible for the patients to keep brushing it every time. So gargling after having anything, not only after meals, even after having tea and coffee, it's a good practice.
Okay, I'll move on to Dr. Thank you, Dr. Shetty.
Thank
Dr.
you so
Mithali, questions for you.
Yeah.
We see children have lovely set of teeth, but after losing their milk teeth, the next set are very abnormal and crooked. What should be done?
That's a very valid thing. So we know children, the parent coming and saying, doc, there was a beautiful set of teeth and why. So the main thing that is associated to this is whenever the milk teeth or the baby teeth are beautifully aligned, meaning when there is no space, the ideal dentition in the primary teeth is a spaced out dentition wherein you see a lot of gaps. Okay. But when there is a closed space dentition, meaning when there are no gaps, it's 100% we are sure that the permanent teeth will come crooked. The child will need braces, but we do not want to do anything to prevent that because ultimately the jaws will grow, the jaws will expand vertically and transversely. So we do not want to do anything. The braces will take care of it later. But yeah, it's bound to happen. We are sure that the child will have a crooked set of teeth.
Okay, Dr. Shetty, one question has come for you. Cost of implants of upper and lower teeth, patient age 55 years. Is it possible for you to share some approximate range?
For a patient with no teeth at all?
That is not mentioned. So imagine no teeth at all.
No, actually very difficult, doc, because what happens is we'll have to see what is the bone condition, because to place the implant, I need to have bone.
Okay, then
So
we
then-
leave it. We leave it because
Yeah,
these are
I
very
thought
specific questions.
Very specific. Yeah, I think implants, and depending on the type of implants also, there's a big, like they asked you about Korean and Israeli and all, because the price of implants also vary in the range is too much. So to give anything.
Dr. Mitali, does calcium supplement in pregnancy have a role in dental health of the child?
No, not really.
Not really.
No.
Okay, how to deal with perioral dermatitis due to lip leaking in children? Is that your domain or no?
No, it's not. It's not. We refer to the pediatrician. We don't do anything which is related to anything to do with any other form of a medication. We don't do that.
Any insights into calcium deposits in teeth?
Calcium deposits.
Is there something like that in the teeth? All the teeth are calcium only, no?
Yeah, there's. I have.
Are they meaning
it's-
tartar?
Tartar. Yeah, I guess that's
Maybe
what.
that is the question.
Yeah,
maybe.
so that is basically a plaque which is mineralized and it turns into a tartar. A plaque is a soft deposit which can be easily scraped with the twice-a-day brushing. But if it is not done well, it ultimately turns into a tartar, which is of course a calcium deposit with a lot of minerals. And that is very difficult to remove only with the brushing. So that is the time wherein you will need a professional scaling. So a scaling or a cleanup, you can say it as, we do that in the dental clinic, and children also have tartar. Of course, not as severe as adults, but yeah, they also need scaling at times.
The next question, I don't know the purpose of asking this question. How do you measure the dose of nitrous oxide to be given for sedation?
So, so
Must
in
be on
nitrous,
body weight, no?
no, in fact, nitrous oxide, when we do with children, it has nothing to do with a fixed dose or it has nothing to do with the weight. It is basically eye titration. So whenever a child who is extremely anxious or a child who is, or rather after the first appointment, the child is less anxious, the dosage depends on how that child is on that particular day. So we obviously start, say, about 20% of nitrous oxygen and about 80% of oxygen, or 30 or 70. It just depends on how comfortable or non-comfortable the child is on that particular day of the appointment. So it is absolutely titrated. So when the child reaches up to a level where the child has now become very calm, we reduce the mixture or the percentage rather.
There is a question. Please, could you tell me again about the black solution to be placed on primary teeth for arresting caries?
That is called as an SDF. It's 38% silver diamine fluoride. It's only done in a very specific cases. It's not generally used every time, but it depends on the patient or the child. Of if it's very deep, close to almost a root canal, you're not sure whether the root canal will be required or not. So we take X-rays, we take the patient history, and then we, after getting all of that done, then we decide whether we really need to do the SDF or not. But yeah, that is 38% silver diamine fluoride. That's the solution.
So we should not think of doing it.
No, leave it to us.
Yeah. Prevention of periodontitis in children.
Just very simple and basic thing. Regular regular brushing. You don't really see a lot of periodontitis in children. How you see in adults, it is mainly, it is limited to gingivitis. like wherein you see the gums are puffy, they are little bit swollen. When we ask history, they say yes, it does bleed when you brush. So it's more of a gingivitis than periodontitis in children.
Okay, there is a question. I don't know whether to believe it or not. Dr. Ashok Madan. What do you say, doctor? Still in the age of 55, 2 milk teeth are there, were removed. Please comment. Do milk teeth remain till age of 55?
Can I like say something?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it's basically a lot of adults do have an over-retained teeth wherein the permanent teeth erupts either side, or it does not erupt at all, or the permanent tooth is not formed. It's agenesis, meaning there is no tooth formation. So at times, even in adults, no matter whatever there is the age, the primary tooth may exist, and they are called as an over-retained teeth. So your dentist would probably figure it out whether it's a baby tooth and why the permanent tooth has not come. So at times an X-ray or an OPG will be the best help, because you can know why the permanent teeth has not come. Either it is not formed, or it's stuck, it's horizontally, meaning it's
not
horizontally placed, it's not yet come out. So it's very important to know, because ultimately there could be a cyst which could come later.
Okay. Dr. Mitali, management of bruxism.
As I told you, we are dealing with a lot of obstructive sleep apnea cases. It's a very, very long discussion. I would keep it very short and simple. A lot of children show signs of bruxism, that is grinding of the teeth at night. Of late, the new science says that the bruxism, the snoring, the clenching of teeth in the night is also coincidentally related to obstructive sleep apnea, where the nasal passages are completely blocked. The child has an extremely hyperactive adenoids and tonsils. The nasal passage is not able to breathe in complete air. So when the child is asleep, there is high chances of them bruxing. So first and foremost, we ask you probably to seek a pediatrician, or rather a sleep specialist, ENT. Probably the child will be prescribed some sprays to clear off the nasal passages. And after that, if in case the bruxism is still existing, if it's just a baby teeth, we do not really like to give any form of a mouth guard or any form of an appliance in such small children. Only if your permanent teeth are getting affected, that is the time we would rather intervene and give something like a mouth guard. But the main cause of bruxing has to go off.
Dr. Sujata, is it possible that somebody has no wisdom teeth?
absolutely, doctor. I think there's a high percentage of people where now ideally you've got to have 4 wisdom teeth. You may have 2 missing. You may have all 4 missing. That's a possibility.
Does having very hot beverages harm the teeth?
Yeah, doctor, something very hot, very cold, very, very hot and very, very cold is definitely would be damaging. And especially in cases, I mean, if they're young, with the enamel absolutely in function, may not happen. But I think as you get older, when the enamel is getting thinner, when enamel is thinning out, and if your gums are receding, definitely it could be a problem.
Can a receded gum be
What's that, Doc?
corrected for aesthetics?
What's that?
Receded gum
Yes.
can be corrected for aesthetics.
Treating of gums is a little difficult, because the gums go where the bone goes. So when you have lost bone, that's where the gums start receding. And like I think in my presentation, I made that thing. I said it's easier to teeth which are destroyed, very difficult to grow back bone and grow back the gums. There are procedures where you can do a grafting procedure. You take out the tissue from the palate and use it along the gums to close the recession that is there. They can be done. It's not that they cannot be done.
Please throw some light on bamboo toothbrush, oil pulling, and use of laser in dentistry. What is bamboo toothbrush? Is
Bamboo
it that what the
eco-friendly? Eco-friendly, doctor.
Okay.
So I actually don't know about the functionality of that tooth, but I know the handle would be of maybe bamboo. So maybe it's eco-friendly. The next thing you asked is about lasers.
Laser.
Oil pulling. I'm really, I I don't know much about it, so I will not say anything. And
Mitali, do you
next
have any
is-
idea?
No.
Laser in dentistry, adult pediatric, are they used? Are they not used?
No, they are used. Doc. Lasers are a part of dentistry. A lot of procedures which were initially done with a scalpel are now being done with your lasers. So, I mean, it is a procedure that is being done where there are lasers which are used for hard structures. There are lasers which are used for soft tissues, more painless. And there are a lot of what do you say indications where lasers can be used, but like suppose there is a pigmentation of the gingiva, lasers can be used to do the deep pigmentation of the gingiva. Sometimes you see patients whose gums are visible and they're very dark, so you could use lasers to do that. I mean, that can be done with a scalpel also, but lasers are less painful, and they are, I mean, like one of the latest technologies that are available. They're expensive, so availability, I don't know how many dentists would really have it.
Do you both recommend electric toothbrush?
I would, Doc. I would.
Yes.
Mitali, you would also?
Yes, absolutely. The electric toothbrushes. So basically, I will just highlight a little bit on this. There are two types. One is a chargeable one and one is a battery one. So for children, we really recommend to use a chargeable rather than using a battery one, because the batteries run out of the charge very fast and they're just like moving the brush and then playing with that, and then ultimately it just doesn't really clean. So what we tell the parent is to get, if you're getting an electric brush, it's rather better to invest in a chargeable ones. And they're
Dr.
far
Shetty,
more
any
efficient.
inputs?
Yes, Doc.
Any inputs on electric toothbrush?
Yes, absolutely, Doc. I think it is it's the best thing, because with the manual brushes, we have been teaching patients how to use. There are different brushing techniques and all that, but I've found that it's very difficult for patients to follow that. And electric brushes are just simple. I just have to tell them the different surfaces of the teeth. I just tell them hold the brush on each tooth, the 4 surfaces of the teeth, and you're done. So, especially regions where they normally would not be brushing, or it's difficult to brush with your manual brushes, they're able to do it wonderfully with an electric brush.
It's far more efficient than probably
Very,
what
very,
you do with a
yes,
manual.
yes. Absolutely.
Prevention of recession of gums with age, except stolen. Dr. Bindu seems to know a lot of dentistry.
That's except stolen.
STOLING is written.
Okay, actually, that's the desensitizing mouthwash, I think, what she's referring to. But how to prevent recession is, Doc, the main thing is right from the beginning, if you have taken care of your gums and you do not have any systemic conditions which are leading to that, I think you should be good. But now that there's already recession of gums, the thing is you have to prevent any plaque, tartar forming. Because the chances of formation of tartar and plaque becomes much more when there is receding gums, because there are gaps. But you have to, educate the patient that he has to keep them absolutely clean, because that way the gums, at least the health of the gums improve, or they come back to normal. So the chances of further recession are, we can prevent that at least.
Mitali, somebody wants you to say a little more on fluoride varnish.
Okay, so basically fluoride varnishes are a preventive treatment that we do for the children. 5% sodium fluoride is the content of the fluoride varnishes. Ideally, the recommendation is to use it every 6 months. Varnishes is like a paint that is dose related. So it's a single unit dose basically. It's a brush and a paint, and every 6 months we start, we do the fluoride varnish. So whenever the patient comes, ideally a checkup is done and a fluoride varnish is applied on all the surfaces of the teeth. The fluoride is soaked up by the enamel of the tooth, and it's basically as a reservoir on the surfaces of the tooth. And it's done if the child is like about 4 plus. Even if the child is cavity free, a recommendation is to do a fluoride varnish till they're about 12, 13, or once the orthodontic treatment is over and they're absolutely good, they're absolutely cavity free, and they're doing great in terms of their dental oral hygiene, then we can stop doing the fluoride varnishes. So that's a recommendation.
Thank you. Dr. Shetty, why does gingivitis occur? Is it lifelong?
Yes, I think gingivitis is basically an inflammation of the gingiva, and anything that causes that. I mean, it causes like you have food getting stuck, brushing not done. Gingivitis is something that will happen throughout life. So that is what we normally recommend is that the patient should, because there are areas which they are not able to brush or they don't know that they're not able to clean that area. So what we suggest is come once a year, at least for a cleaning, at least once after you've done a cleaning. And if we show them how to brush, and then tell them come back after 6 months. And then at that time, you know exactly which are the areas they're not cleaning, and then show it to them and then make them aware that they have to brush it. If they do not brush and if plaque forms and then from plaque to tartar, then gingivitis is going to be there. So brushing, flossing, and using a mouthwash does help. And I will not say that this is true for all patients. I think it is patient specific. You may have patients who have very good healthy gingiva, so I would not recommend a mouthwash for everybody.
Okay, so I will thank you both, and I will
Thank
save because people have been
Thank you.
asking your address and phone number. So I will be sharing both your addresses and phone number to our audience. And I hope you both are okay that if this video goes on YouTube for other people to see.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yes, Doc, I think let
Yeah,
us have a look at it once before.
Yeah, we will give you the link. You see it first, then
Yes.
we'll open it for
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And it's a great platform to let everyone know that very soon we will be shifting to a newer place.
Very good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I will share the phone numbers first
Yeah,
and Dr. Shetty's current address. And when you give me your new address, I'll share that with them.
sure.
Doc, thank you very much for this.
Thank
I
you
think
so
this was
much.
long overdue.
Both of
This
you were
platform.
amazing.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you so much.
I'll come back to you maybe next year because I want to keep this update a regular feature. And I hope and pray that the next session is in an auditorium face to face.
Okay. Yeah, we
Thank you
hope
so
that
much
too,
for
Doc.
this opportunity.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you
Okay,
very
thank
much.
you very much. Thanks a ton.
Thank you.
Bye. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Take care.
Thanks to everyone.
Thank you.